Sup everyone, Casual Talk here. Today I'm going to be talking about major cities are becoming more expensive and why it's becoming a problem. As someone who grew up in New York City, originally from Brooklyn, New York, I moved from Brooklyn, New York to moving to upstate New York, the suburb main part of New York, okay? And from there, I moved into South Carolina. And I assumed having peace would be the better outcome, but I realized how much I miss the city life. And now looking back, the cost of cities is now even increasing more than ever on prices, on food, groceries, etc. The city life is so expensive. Even your food and your groceries are even more expensive as well. A gallon of milk down here on average in the state of South Carolina is about maybe $2 to $3. Okay, $2 to $3 before taxes. While if you are someone who lives in New York City, I remember the last time I got a gallon of milk was roughly about $6 to $7. That is about a huge $3 to $4 difference. Okay. Not only that, inflation is on the rise, especially due to COVID-19, because COVID-19 has crippled the economy even more. And I'm not going to get into the political great reset standpoint. I'm talking about what's going on right now with these major cities, and it's becoming a problem that there's a lot of college students, young people that wants to have that city lifestyle. They want to live that luxury life, but at the same time, they're also hurting everybody else in the economy. People that live there got to suffer because their rent is increasing because the demand of apartments and living in the city is going up. Look at what's going on with the major city in Texas. Look at Washington. Look at Maryland. I live in South Carolina. South Carolina does not really have a major city like that, okay? From what I know the major part is Columbia. I never really been there at all before. I never really visited, but everywhere else in South Carolina is starting to become more expensive as well because there's a lot of people that are moving in here as well, which I'm going to make a video about that in the future. The suburb life, yes, it's a lot cheaper. It's a lot more lenient. It's more affordable. But at the exact same time, what you get paid on average, the minimum wage is not that good. It's not that high. Majority of the jobs where you can make a lot of money for your average person, for your average Joe, is in a warehouse. The warehouse industry markets are booming in some of these and many of these suburb areas because of the space of land, the land space. This is the reason why a lot of major companies and major factories are moving their plants into areas where there is a lot of land, okay? And at the exact same time, people that are moving into the cities, they are now forced to look for a retail job or a regular 9 to 5 job. And if they can't find that, then you're stuck living with a relative or mom and pop, or you can't even move to the city at all unless if you have a career or in mind, if you have a career set. $100,000 is not even going very far either today because of taxes, the increase on tax inflation, the cost of food, dining out. Imagine someone making over $100,000 a year. You have to budget just to live a lifestyle, and you're paying over $3,000 a month on rent in New York City on a 2-bedroom apartment, even a 1-bedroom apartment. Could you imagine? Could you imagine? Many of these young people today, especially in New York City, they have most of the time for them to even make it, especially for those who are now coming to New York City, they have to have a roommate in order to survive. A roommate. Because there was a time when I was originally going to move back to New York City, and I realized it was going to be a waste of time, drama, and my wife and I was not going to downgrade. I'm sorry. We were not going to live a life of having to downgrade, okay? The quality of life is what's the most important thing that a lot of people should be setting their minds on. All of all the things in general does not matter. unless if you put God first, because I'm a big believer in God. I mention God in many of my videos, okay? Other than that, it's becoming a huge problem that most of these young people and people in general are keep moving into the cities. There's people who want to move back into the cities, but now if you can't afford to move in the city, then you have to switch to either just applying to Section 8 or housing. And many people does not want to do that because housing equals living in the projects. You're living in poverty just to live a lifestyle in the city. And on top of that, the poverty areas most of the time is infested with crime-driven individuals, crime-driven people. Most of the crime happens in high poverty areas, and this is everywhere else. It's like that everywhere else. Wherever the cost of living is low, the crime is high, and it's true. That could be due to drugs, guns, violence. There's no order. There's none. The quality of life is garbage, and when you're living in poverty. People want to live in a fantasy and they think that you're just going to move to the New York City, all these major cities, Washington, Seattle, you're going to make it, right? Especially in Washington, D.C. and Baltimore, right? But then they get a rude awakening when all these luxury apartments, it's not worth suffering over when you barely got anything in your pocket. You didn't do your math. You didn't take the time to see how much you could make every month. And if you don't have any roommates that are making about $2,000 to $3,000 a month with you, right? You're not gonna make it. You are not gonna make it. This is coming from a married guy. It's me and my wife. We have a dual income, and we both know we would have been suffering if we were in New York City right now again. Because there was a time we were thinking about moving back to Brooklyn, New York, but we changed our mind real quick. The market is expensive. And looking back at it now, it's even more expensive. The cost of living is expensive. The price on groceries is expensive. It's a hassle to even find a job because of so much competition and the overflation on the overpopulated economy. Now you have more competition with regular jobs. A regular 9 to 5 job is even difficult to get in major cities. There's business owners who are even suffering too because they don't have enough workers because the cost of living is also driving them out. So a lot of people are being homeless, and you have to understand, why is there so many homeless people in major cities? Because of the cost of living. In my opinion, an apartment is a place where you start off with just to get by. It's not meant for you to live in long term. But that's the problem. If you have a pension, your pension can't even keep up with your nice rent, etc. Right? You have to no choice but to go to government assistance or government housing or Section 8. And many people are not willing to downgrade to that type of life because in many cases you're going to live in a poverty area with a high crime rate. Many people does not want to live through that, and I don't blame you. I don't blame you if you want to go through that. But what can you do? What can you do? The more people that's going to move into these major cities, the more it's going to become a problem. And when a lot of people like there's now a lot of people that are leaving these major cities. They are now coming into Charleston, South Carolina, and now the rent is increasing here as well. It didn't go up that much, thank God, because where I live at, my rent didn't jump, thank God. Because I live in a different part. I live in Summerville, South Carolina. The rent up here is not that high compared to Charleston. Charleston is like a miniature city, a miniature city life. They cater to a lot of young adults, young career-driven young people. And because they see that population of people visiting, coming in and out, that's why the demand and the increase on the rent is going up. And because many places is increasing their rent on apartments, other people's going to increase their rent on apartments as well. And this is happening all over in the United States, even in Canada. Even in Canada, the rent on average for a luxury apartment, an apartment in general, just to live in a decent area, is expensive. it is very expensive. And I'm really hoping and praying for the best for every single individual out there. But I'm gonna make another video about the city life versus the suburb life in the future. And as crazy as this sounds, this is gonna continue because social media is they're hyping up New York City, all these major cities like Washington D.C., Baltimore, Maryland, Washington D.C., and a major city in Texas. Even California is being hyped up. Chicago, Miami, all these places where it's hot. It's attracting a lot of young adults and young people. And the more of them that are going to move to these major places because of Netflix, what they see on TV, movies, etc., right? The more the market is going to suffer and other people are going to suffer in the long run. That's why I've seen videos like, oh, some of these cities are going to be deserted. New York will be deserted in the next 10, 20 years. I've seen videos like this. People talking about this, making predictions about it, what could happen to these cities in the future. And if we keep moving at this point, minimum wage is barely increasing. All these other workers, they're not going to be even able to afford to live with a roommate. 4 roommates won't be even able to cover for everything. There's going to be a lot of people that are suffering. And I'm one to not even live with another individual or a stranger just to get by in life, just to make ends meet. Imagine spending $1,000 to $2,000 on a room. Imagine how much the mortgage prices and the taxes are, the property taxes are in major cities for just a house. It's like where the rent is high and then getting a career is not even enough. I believe it's a lot smarter to be more realistic and sacrifice that you're going to need a car to live in a suburb and work in a city, because there's a lot of people that does that. They travel about an hour or so to go to work in a major city, and then when they come back home, they got their rent on their home or their mortgage. It's less than $1,000 or $15,000 a month, while people in the city are struggling for a lifestyle that they can't even keep up with, and you're trapped in debt. On top of that, most of these young people out here are in debt. You want to live a lifestyle because of people that you see on Instagram, Facebook, social media, TikTok. They're in debt just as much as you. A lot of these people are not making a lot of money. They're not rich. Major cities are becoming more expensive because of a lot of selfishness in today's society. And it's going to get worse if it's continuing like this. Imagine how bad it is right now, because the last time, from what I've done my research on, a lot of major apartments right now, they're still vacant in New York City. Oh yes, the last time I've done my research, there was a few videos that I came across where landlords are even having a hard time finding tenants to cover those apartments, to cover the building fees. Because of the whole price on the building, they need the money from the renters to be able to also cover for the property taxes, the taxes, the rent, everything, maintenance, whatever it may be. Some of them may even have to file for bankruptcy because they can no longer afford to make those payments because they don't have they don't have enough tenants. And then on top of that, the other tenants that are living there, they have to suffer because other people are not available to cover those apartments. So how they suffer is that they're gonna jump the landlord is gonna now jump up the rent even a lot higher. So for instance, the rent that you could be paying right now in just to live in a high-rising building in Manhattan in New York, it could be $2,000, right? For a 1 bedroom, 1 bath, 800 square feet, super small. Now out of nowhere, it jumps up next year to $3,000 a month. Stuff like this is happening. People just gotta do their research and take their time and think. Major cities is going to be abandoned in the future if it continues like this, because it's messed up and it's just horrible that a lot of people wants to be naive and asleep. They want to move all to these major nice cities, live this nice lifestyle, and at the exact same time, everybody else is suffering because of that. Just something that a lot of people just really need to think about. Other people are suffering. Casual talk here. Peace out. Let me know what you think.